We're talking about whistleblowers and the challenges they go through. But firstly, let's just talk about this particular case that's recently broken news in South Africa. A health management official being killed apparently because they were providing information to the SIU regarding PPE corruption in the Department of Health. How's Corruption Watch processing this story?
Well, I think we're processing it the same way the country is processing this. We know we have a corruption challenge, significant corruption challenge that we've been facing that's been deepened under the COVID period with the type of scandals that we saw last year. There's been a wide-scale investigation into this matter. The SIU has been mandated and there have been initial reports that have come out. And we know that those investigations have been aided on the back of people being able to provide information, effectively whistleblowers. Whistleblowers don't come out in front of the cameras while investigations are taking place. Their identities need to be protected because they're under threat. And this is now the situation that we've seen where whistleblowers are actually physically threatened and they lose their lives. I mean, this is as serious as it gets.
Totally, really scary. But are we to be encouraged by this statement that's just come out from the National Commissioner's Office saying that 7 suspects have been arrested as a result?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's encouraging when law enforcement's able to do its job, but it still begs the question, what type of system do we have in place to protect whistleblowers? To what extent are we factoring in whistleblower protection as a pillar in our fight against corruption? And it's not clear to Corruption Watch or I think to the broader society that we're doing enough at all, that whistleblowers are really putting themselves in harm's way. They're losing their jobs, they're getting victimized. And now in these extreme cases, you're looking at a case of assassination. So we'd like to see much stronger messaging from government on this issue. And I really want to see government be much more out in front on promoting issues around whistleblower protection. And I think critical to this will be the rollout of the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, which has been approved by Cabinet, which talks about whistleblowing, but which we haven't heard very much about so far this year.
I want you to tell me more about that National Anti-Corruption Strategy, but we asked our viewers to contribute to this conversation, and I'm just going to look at some of the tweets that have come through. Togo is saying, because government operates as silos, the debate between SABC and the Ministry of Justice will always be there as whose responsibility it is to provide protection. So until government is able to work in concert, there will always be the problem of putting whistleblowers at risk. Thanks, Mtogo. Nkutalo Rudimtanga says it's like a negative number out of 10. They're not safe at all. All right, those are some of the tweets that have come through, and let's continue our conversation with Mr. Singh. Just take us through the process that whistleblowers go through when they report corruption or sensitive information to law enforcement agencies.
Well, I mean, we have something called the Protected Disclosures Act, which is meant to provide the framework by which disclosures can be made either in the workplace or, in the context you're talking about in terms of law enforcement. But I mean, once you're going to law enforcement on the basis that you've got a criminal complaint, there has to be a risk assessment which takes place with regard to whether your safety is in peril. And this raises questions around witness protection and the witness protection program. And I think that's what the first tweet kind of alluded to in terms of who's driving the program around witness protection. Is it something that has to reside within the SABC, within the NPA? What's the kind of guidance we're getting around this from the Ministry of Justice? So, these are issues which are core to our criminal justice system, but we know that for a long time, the witness protection system hasn't been operating in a functional way. When people come to Corruption Watch, it's not an easy process for us to then direct them towards a place within the SABC where they know that their complaints can be and their personal integrity and personality will get protected.
So clearly, when a person makes that decision to bring information forward, they're thinking that they're righting a wrong. They're not wanting to lose their lives. And as you said earlier, we can be encouraged that the law enforcement system has responded promptly. But that kind of excitement is usually, further down the road, turns into disappointment when there isn't a proper conclusion. How's Corruption Watch dealing with ensuring, just holding the law to account, the government to account, in ensuring that cases such as these have a desirable ending?
Yeah. I think, you're talking broadly around consequence management. So, do we see successful prosecutions? Do we see successful recovery of assets? Do we have a anti-corruption criminal justice system where people feel protected, where they feel they can go with information? And I think at the moment that's seriously in doubt, that's seriously under threat. So that, there is something called the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, which envisions a total society approach to fighting corruption, which envisions rolling out a system where government is out in front on these issues, where law enforcement is properly resourced, and where whistleblowers are protected. The discourse of whistleblower protection is all over that strategy. But where is the leadership on it? Where is the institutional response to start implementing some of these policies? So I think that's kind of the moment that we're at now, where there's a lot of great talk. We've got good laws, we've got good policies, but where's the real follow through and the implementation on this stuff in order to ensure that people feel safe and protected? And the lack of safety that people feel is not just about corruption. It's obviously a broader social issue that we face.
Karam, before we let you go, just give us a sense of the kind of work Corruption Watch has been doing in the past year as you try to track PPE corruption, not just in Gauteng, but nationally.
In terms of that, there have been different engagements. I mean, the one main thing that we're pushing to try to understand is the reform around the legislation in procurement. So we have come together with other civil society organizations to form something which we've called the Procurement Reform Working Group, which is trying to kind of synergize issues within civil society, the priority issues. And for us, it's around transparency. It's around the availability of information and about trying to kind of close the vulnerabilities which exist within the current procurement system to make it more durable to the kind of corruption that we've seen. So that legislation seems to be, proceeding very slowly. It needs to come through National Treasury. They've received comments from thousands of submittants. We've asked for those comments. We haven't received them. So, some of these things need to move much faster in government. Again, we get the right talk, but the actual follow through is very slow. And procurement reform, we've known the issues for years. We've seen it in the SIU reports, but there isn't an institutional response. And that's something which we really hope to see in this period coming up, and hope that the new legislation can assist in that regard.
Clearly a lot still to talk about, and hopefully you will avail yourself in future. But Karam Singh from Corruption Watch, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today as we look at the safety of whistleblowers.